Welcome to the Radical Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Generation to Generation, where you'll be inspired by the past, equipped for the present, and prepared for the future as we engage in conversations with people from around the world. If you've been inspired by the guests that we've had on the podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, hit notification bells, whatever you can do on the platforms that you're listening on, so that more people have the opportunity of hearing these and engaging in our community. Hello everyone, this is Andrew and Daphne from Generation to Generation, and our guests today are Volodia and Ruslana. Now, we've had Volodia on a few other times before, giving updates from the Ukraine and what's happening there. His wife wasn't able to join him, and we'll find out why and get to hear some of her journey in this one. Volodia, for people that haven't heard those previous episodes, can you just say a bit about who you are and where you're from?
Well, greetings to everyone, and I'm thankful that Andrew and Daphne, they are giving me on a regular basis to join this wonderful interview. And briefly, I would just say again that we are from Kiev, Ukraine, and basically since the war started, we've have our journey back and going back and forth in Ukraine. And when we had our previous time together, I was in Western Ukraine, but preparing going back to Kiev. But before I came to Kiev, I came to a place called Zhmerenka. This is more or less central Ukraine. And I stayed there for about 2 months, and with the primary purpose to enforce the local church there, because pastor of the church, due to the fact that his wife and his adopted kids they are in Norway, so he had to travel back and forth between Ukraine and Norway, so he needed some help and support in his church. So I stayed there for a couple of months doing some leadership training, and also for me it was a good opportunity to see how people get used to a current situation. And unfortunately, while I was there, the main city in that area was hit by 2 cruise missiles, and there were many casualties, and it was a horrible situation because many people thought that they're safe and they were just enjoying their daily life, their daily routine. And when situations like this happen, you understand that our life is just a gift given to us by God, and in reality only He knows, what or when, what would happen with your life. So as I said, I've stayed in that little town for 2 months, and while I was there, God allowed me to change my small vehicle to a bigger vehicle, because since the war started, I realized that this is the time for the bigger vehicles, because you need either to transport people or you need to transport a humanitarian aid. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have a bigger vehicle. And actually some of your donations allowed me to do this. So when my time in this town was over, about 3 weeks ago, I moved back to Kiev, because, as I said, my journey during this war started from Kiev, so I kind of had to go back and see what God would do again. But as also, my wife, who is now with me, she was not with me during that time, so I was missing her tremendously. So the greatest gift for me was about 2 weeks ago, she could join me again here in Ukraine. And also last week, we had an opportunity to go to the eastern Ukraine, to our home city. where actually Ruslana's mom is living. And that area was under Russians in March, but luckily it was set free. Russians were kicked out from that area, and we had a chance to go there, spend some time with our relatives, with our friends, and many of them they are involved in work with the people there. And it was a blessing actually for us to see all of them, and also had an opportunity to minister in a local church. So basically, just yesterday, we came back again to Kiev.
And for people listening to this, you alluded to the fact that we've been able to help with resources. If people listening would like to do that, I'll put a link in the description box. They can go click there. If you would like to donate, we can get more resources out to Volodia and Ruslana and to help support them with the work they're doing. Now, we've heard from you, Volodia, previously about your journey in the land. We're still hearing about it. We'll hear more today. But you just said as well that Ruslana, your wife, has only just got back. So, Ruslana, can you just say a bit about where you were when this all started to happen, it started to unfold? And did you, when you were out of the country, did you expect that something might happen while you were gone?
К тебе Володя говорил, что тебя не было, и поэтому где ты была, расскажи, и ожидала ли ты, уезжая из страны, что такое будет?
Ну, моя история, она не похожа на другие.
My story is not like other stories.
Я уезжала 17 февраля в свой круиз. Это был мой первый круиз, отдых.
17th of February, I went on my first cruise trip.
И я отправлялась из Дубая
And
по Персидскому заливу.
and her cruise trip was in Dubai.
Я очень ожидала этого такого отдыха.
And I was looking forward for that time.
И очень хотела оказаться на круизном лайнере.
And I wanted very much to be on a cruise ship.
Я вместе еще с 2 семьями, украинцами из Киева, мы отправились в этот круиз.
So me and 2 other Ukrainian families, we went together on this cruise trip.
Наш круиз отправился, и все было хорошо до 24 февраля.
So our cruise started on the 20th of February, and everything was fine till we came to the 24th of February.
Мы узнали утром, что в Украине началась война.
That day we found out in the morning that the war started in Ukraine.
Все мы просто начали звонить близким и узнавать, что произошло, и все ли живы.
We all started phoning to our family members, trying to find out what happened and if everyone are alive.
Интернет был недостаточно хорошим, чтобы быть свободно на связи с близкими, и это придавало еще больше беспокойства.
Internet on a cruise ship was not good, and it did not give us good coverage to find out what is going on.
2 следующих дня мы просто плакали и переживали.
The 2 following days we were just crying and we were very anxious.
Накануне перед войной мы знакомились со многими русскими людьми, и мы были в очень добрых отношениях.
Before the war started, we met a lot of Russians on that cruise ship, and we had just good relations with them.
Мы знакомились, вместе отдыхали, и все было хорошо.
So we were introduced to each other. We could enjoy lifetime on a cruise ship. Everything was fine.
Но 24 числа русские наши вчерашние друзья, они быстро поменяли к нам отношения.
But on a day when the war started, those Russians who just yesterday were our friends, their attitude changed completely towards us.
И они говорили в наш адрес очень плохие слова,
and they were saying bad words towards us.
говорили о том, что мы всегда желали вам смерти,
They were saying that we're always wishing you to die,
что вы нацисты
that you are Nazis,
и многие другие вещи.
and many other bad things.
И, это было очень тяжело тоже быть на круизе и, вот такие вот вещи переживать.
And emotionally, it was hard to be on a cruise ship and experience things like this.
Очень быстро эта информация разлетелась по всему лайнеру.
And very quickly, the information about the war got spread through the whole cruise ship.
И те, кто знал русский язык, казахи, узбеки, кто владел русским языком, они поддерживали нас, даже белорусы, но не русские.
Many people on that ship who spoke Russians, like Kazakhs, Uzbek, even people from Belarus, they were supporting us, they were encouraging us, but not Russians.
Потом мы все узнали, что мы не можем вернуться в Украину, потому что небо было закрыто.
Then we found out that we could not go back to Ukraine because all air transportation was not allowed.
И нам нужно было быстро решать, где нам быть. В Дубай оставаться, у людей просто не было денег для того, чтобы оставаться.
And we had to make decisions where we need to stay because you know that Dubai is very expensive city, and so it was not possible for us to stay there.
И каждый из семей решал, куда он отправится, в какую другую страну.
And all the families, they were making their own decisions to which countries to go.
Самое сложное было найти деньги для того, чтобы купить билет и куда-то улететь.
The most difficult thing was to find money to buy extra plane tickets.
В моем случае нашлись знакомые, которые Володя с ними связался в Германии, и они купили мне билет, и я 26 числа я вылетела в Германию.
In my case, Volodia, through his friends in Germany, organized the tickets, so Ruslana could go 26th of February to Germany.
И меня встретили малознакомые люди.
And I was met by people whom I did not know very well.
И в течение целого месяца я просто жила в чужой семье, где общение было только на немецком.
And for the whole month, I was living in a family where they were conversing only in German.
Это очень, очень тяжело.
And actually, it was quite hard.
Я ходила вместе с ними в церковь.
Together with them, I was attending the church meetings.
Но мне было там очень сложно.
But it was difficult for me on those meetings.
Я ничего не понимала, и это было стресс просто для меня.
I did not understand anything, and it was quite stressful for me.
Вот. У меня не было одежды, меня, слава Богу, меня одели, потому что это было холодно.
I did not have right clothes for that period of time, so people, they had to give me some clothes.
Я благодарна людям, которые позаботились обо мне, этой семье.
And I'm very thankful to those people, to this family who took care of me.
Они полностью взяли заботу обо мне.
So they completely covered all my needs.
Но для меня, да.
Yeah, you want to say something?
It can be hard when you go for long periods of time not being able to speak your heart language.
Тяжело, когда ты уезжаешь надолго, не можешь на родном языке говорить.
Да, это очень сложно.
You mentioned on the cruise ship that the internet wasn't very good. It was hard to be able to communicate. How did you find out that the war had started? What happened, and what were your initial emotions? What were you thinking?
Сказала, что был плохой интернет на корабле. А расскажи, как ты именно узнала, что началась война, и что ты пережила, какие эмоции у тебя были?
Володя написал мне рано утром и отправил мне СМС.
Early morning, Volodia sent me a message about this.
И когда появился интернет, я каждое утро всегда проверяла связь.
And every morning when I had an internet connection, I was like checking the news.
Я прочитала, и у меня был шок.
And when I read the news, I was just shocked.
В этот момент мы как раз причалили к Катару.
At this moment, we just arrived to Qatar.
Я побежала на 7-ю палубу, где я знала, что хороший интернет
С какой палубы?
с 15-й.
And from the 15th deck, she ran to the 7th deck, where the internet connection was better.
И я просто между шлюпками, спасательными шлюпками, я просто сидела, потому что там была одна такая зона, где очень хорошо ловил интернет от порта.
And I was just sitting between two save life boats because it was the best spot, to catch the internet connection.
И все, что я могла, я просто могла переписываться.
And everything what I could do is just texting.
Я пыталась понять, где они и все ли у них хорошо.
I was trying to understand where is my family and if they are fine.
Они говорили о том, что они будут выезжать,
They were telling me that they are planning to leave Kiev,
но Киев уже бомбят.
but Kiev was under attack already.
Я очень переживала, потому что наш дом, он находится возле железнодорожного узла.
And I was very much concerned because our house here in Kiev is just right next to the train station.
И также я волновалась о том, чтобы они все сели в машину, потому что у нас 2 маленьких внуков, и мы могли просто не поместиться в машину.
And my concern was that all my family could fit into our small car because we have 2 grandkids, and with other people, there was a possibility that not everyone would be able to fit into one car.
И вот когда они уже выезжали, конечно, я очень сильно плакала и молилась, чтобы Господь просто сохранял их.
And when they were about to leave, I was just crying and praying to God that God would protect and save them.
Работники, которые работали возле этих шлюпок, они подходили и спрашивали, все ли у меня хорошо, они видели, что я все время плачу.
The staff workers who were working not far from me, they saw me crying, so they were just coming up to me and asking if I'm fine.
Я не знала, что им сказать, они меня не понимали.
I did not know what to tell them because they could not understand me.
Но они понимали, что в этот момент меня нельзя трогать, хотя я не имела права там сидеть.
But they understood that they should not touch me, though I was not allowed to be at that spot, particular spot on the ship.
Через 2 часа на это же место пришли 2 женщины.
In 2 hours, 2 other ladies came to the same spot.
По их разговору я поняла, что они русские.
From their conversation, I found out that they were Russians.
И я поняла, что они говорят о войне.
And I realized that they were talking about the war.
Но они говорили и об этом как о специальной операции.
But they were talking about this war as about special war operation, as Russians call it.
И мне было так больно от этого.
And it was so painful for me because of that.
Мне хотелось подойти им и говорить, что вы не правы.
I just wanted to come up to them and tell them that they are not right.
Это война, и вы не понимаете, что сейчас происходит у меня в Украине и с моими близкими.
This is the war, and you don't understand what is going on in Ukraine and with my family members.
Но я слышала по их диалогу, что они были настроены, такое вот отношение, ура, это случилось.
But based on the conversation between them, I realized that they're happy about what is going on, and it's like, hooray, praise God that it happened eventually.
Поэтому я не стала с ними общаться, я просто ушла.
So I did not start talking to them, I just left that place.
I guess for you, what started off as a dream holiday turned into an absolute nightmare, and for many people in the Ukraine, they want to be out of there, but for you who are out of the Ukraine, you probably wanted to be back in the Ukraine to be able to be there with your family.
То есть то, что для тебя начиналось как путешествие мечты, превратилось в ужас. Если те, кто были в Украине, хотели бы уехать, для тебя, наверное, наоборот, хотелось быть в Украине.
Это правда.
Yeah, you are right.
Ну, я поняла уже потом, что Господь просто вывел меня одну для того, чтобы вся моя семья поместилась в машину.
Later, I just realized that God took me out of Ukraine before this time, so all my other family members could fit into our car.
И я благодарила Бога за то, что я уехала.
And I was thanking God that I was not there.
So when your family began to leave the Ukraine, you had Volodia left behind and your son, I think. Am I right?
Yeah, сын, yes, Паша. То есть ты когда уехала, то Володя и сын Паша, сын остался.
So you have another dynamic to contend with, getting your grandchildren out and their family, but now you have your son and you have Volodia left behind. This must have made your heart in different turmoil. You're pleased they're out, you're anxious because they're in. There isn't a place of peace except in Jesus, of course.
Да, ну из-за того, что дети все были там, то не было мира в сердце, но за исключением, конечно, что мы понимаем, что миру Иисус дает мир.
Да, это правда, потому что те семьи, которые поехали вместе со мной в круиз, это верующие семьи.
It's true because those two other Ukrainian families who were with me on this cruise trip, they were also believers.
Именно это помогало нам, как-то сохранять мир в сердце, что Господь позаботится о наших семьях.
And it helped us to preserve peace in our heart and know that God would take care of our family members in Ukraine.
Да, когда мы поехали в посольство, то там приходили очень много верующих.
When we went to Ukrainian embassy in Dubai, a lot of believers were coming there.
И они предлагали помощь тем, которые пострадали и сегодня не знают, что делать и куда деваться.
And they were proposing help to those Ukrainians who suffered and did not know what to do.
Уже 25 числа они приносили туда еду, горячую еду, воду, все, что необходимо.
On 25th of February, it's like second day after the war was started, those people, they were bringing to the embassy food, beverages to those Ukrainians who were there.
Они забирали людей, которым некуда было деться, и давали им какое-то временное жилье.
They were taking Ukrainians who did not have a place where to go and were giving them some at least temporary place to stay.
Это были церкви.
There were people from the churches.
For those people who haven't heard previous episodes or who aren't aware that men over the age of 16 were not allowed to leave the country, which is why your son and Volodia were in the country, isn't that they just didn't want to go?
Yeah. Да, говорит, повторяет, что те, кто не знает, что мужчины от 16 и выше не могли уезжать из страны, поэтому сын Володя остался.
I think one of the most heart-rending photos that I have seen from you, Volodia, was you and your son kissing goodbye to your little granddaughter. And I looked at that and I thought, that picture gets to the heart of what is happening in the Ukraine without thinking about all the Russian trauma. But that moment, I looked at that picture many times and just prayed for that being repeated over and over in the Ukraine.
Yeah, that's true. По фотографии, где мы с Пашей Доминику целуем перед отъездом. Yeah, it was very touching, and especially when we had to cross. Well, actually, when they had to cross the border already, and though my daughter, who is 17, she is not little, but she was crying. Nobody actually wanted to leave because you don't know what expects you and you don't want to be apart from your family members.
And I am really, very thankful that there was a chain of our spiritual family who were helping us from Romania, then from Budapest, Germany, Norway. There was a chain of family members on the way where everyone was helping and doing whatever they could do to help.
So, Ruslana, you eventually ended up in Norway.
В итоге ты в Норвегии очутилась.
Да, я ждала в Германии, что мои дети приедут ко мне в Германию.
When first I was in Germany, I thought that my children will join me in Germany.
И когда они уже были готовы, в какой-то момент они передумали и решили ехать в Норвегию.
But at a certain point, there was made a decision to go to Norway, not to Germany.
И я понимала, что они переживают особенный стресс, и я была готова поменять место и приехать к ним.
And I realized that they are also under stress, and I was prepared to leave Germany and go to Norway, where actually they wanted to go.
30 апреля мы с ними все встретились в Норвегии, в молитвенном... марта. Мы встретились вместе в молитвенном центре в Норвегии.
On the 30th of March, I met my children in Norway in a prayer center.
Я 1,5 месяца не видела своих детей.
I did not see my children for months and a half.
Это была очень теплая встреча, мы много плакали.
And it was very, warm, welcoming. We were crying, giving hugs to each other.
Вот следующие 5 месяцев мы вместе находимся сейчас в Норвегии.
And for the following 5 months, we've been together in Norway.
И пребывание всех этих 5 месяцев я видела вот все те люди, которые из Украины приехали, нас 63 человека, мамы с детьми.
And we were together with another 60 people from Ukraine who were together, like mainly mothers and children.
Я все это время наблюдаю, насколько верующим легче переживать такие события стрессовые.
And I could observe that it's much easier for believers to go through these stressful events.
Мы как семья, мы поддерживаем друг друга.
As a family, we could support each other.
Мы не теряем друг друга из вида.
So we did not lose each other from sight.
У нас постоянно проходят богослужения, молитвенные
встречи. We always have our church meetings, prayer meetings.
Мы встречаемся по группам.
We get together in cell groups.
И много-много общаемся.
And have a lot of fellowship with each other.
И вот сейчас мы видим, как люди, которые стабильно стояли в Господе, которые служители, они намного сильнее, чем те люди, которые приходили в церковь и уходили.
And we can see a huge difference between the people who are stable in the Lord, who follow the Lord. It's much easier for them to go through this situation than those people who are, just so-called church goers, or just, just come once in a couple of months.
I think for people who are listening, we just need to press pause a minute, because there are hard times coming throughout the world. You just happen to be spearheading the way, may I say. And we need to learn some of the lessons that you have just said about us being together, about being strong in the Lord ahead of time. Some good lessons in that for us all to hear.
Yeah, это хороший урок, что мы должны быть сильны в Господе. Это то, что помогает
нам
проходить.
And I think also, when you go through hard times, I mean, it's a known fact of trauma that you go through it easier if you're with others who really understand what you're going through, that coming together. And that's a biblical principle anyway.
принцип, когда ты понимаешь заранее, через что ты проходишь.
How did you navigate the time when you weren't with any of your family? How did you hold yourself together when you're walking through this nightmare? I guess maybe you had a few friends around you, but you were kind of on your own.
Ну, спрашивают, ну, когда еще твоей семьи не было с собой, ну, вот как ты, скажем так, держалась? Вот, что тебе помогало? Ну, может быть, кто-то были какие-то друзья, ну, как держалась? Что помогало тебе как бы проходить это время, пока не было семьи вместе?
Ну, я жила в немецкой семье.
Ruslana, she lived in a German family.
Поэтому все это время, благодаря тому, что эта семья верующая,
And because that family, they are believers also.
они поддерживали меня, и мы молились вместе.
They were encouraging me, and we were praying together.
Я старалась быть где-то нужной, даже ходила на детские встречи, помогала им там.
And I tried to help wherever I could, and I was.
При церквях.
And she was helping with the children ministry in a church.
Вот, но именно вот благодаря таким вот вещам я держалась, и я просто ожидала встречи со своими детьми.
And the fact that I was trying to be involved in doing something, you know, it actually helped me also to go through the situation.
И все новости, которые шли бесконечно на мой телефон,
and all the news I was receiving on my cell phone,
они побуждали меня постоянно быть в молитвенном состоянии.
it was encouraging me always to pray.
И именно благодаря этому я знала точно, что моя семья, она под Божьим покровом.
And because of this, I knew that my family was under God's protection.
Я видела, как многие люди переживали за свои семьи, кто был вдали друг от друга.
And I saw how other people experienced the fact that they were far from their
И они
families.
ничего не могли сделать и ничем не могли помочь.
And when you are far, you cannot actually do anything and you cannot help.
А у меня была огромная помощь со стороны Господа.
But I've experienced a great help from God's side.
Я знала, что Бог меня слышит, Он не оставит мою семью.
I knew that God could hear me and He won't abandon my family.
Именно это помогало мне пройти период, пока я с ними не встречусь.
And it was helping me to go through this period before I could actually meet them again.
What was it like for you when you finally stepped back on Ukraine soil? I imagine it was quite a mix of emotions.
Как что ты почувствовал, когда уже ты снова вступил на украинскую почву? Наверное, какая-то смесь эмоций была. Что ты почувствовал?
Я не знаю.
I don't know.
Да, это когда ты приезжаешь в Украину, ты понимаешь, что ты приехал в зону боевых действий.
Because, you know, when you come to Ukraine, you understand that you come to a country which is actually a battlefield.
И где-то ты пытаешься услышать какую-то стрельбу, взрывы.
And unconsciously, you try to hear maybe some fighting, some bombing, you know, shooting somewhere.
Но в Украину я заезжала с Западной Украины.
But I came to Ukraine from the western side, from Poland.
И там я не могла услышать никаких взрывов.
And there you actually could not hear no explosions or fightings.
И я это знала.
And actually I knew about that.
Но ты все равно готов к этому.
But still subconsciously you are prepared to hear something.
Поэтому, когда я приехала в Киев, и я знала, что в 11 часов комендантский час.
And so when I arrived actually to Kiev already, and I knew that the curfew starts at 11 p.m.
Я знала, что мой автобус задерживается на много-много часов, и мы можем не попасть.
And their bus was 7 or 8 hours late, so there was a danger that it could arrive after the curfew starts.
Вот в этот момент я поняла, что все-таки я приехала уже в такую зону опасную.
At that moment, I realized that I arrived to a kind of a dangerous zone.
Потому что если бы я не попала домой до 11, мы бы ночевали на вокзале.
Because if we could not make home before 11, we should stay overnight at the train station.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're both together, and at this moment you're in Kiev, right?
Yes, yeah. Вместе сейчас в Киеве.
Yeah.
So let's just take a short period of time. What do you anticipate the next month will be like for you both?
Вы думаете, что вот следующий месяц для вас будет? Как вы же думаете, что в этом месяце будет? Ну, ты можешь за себя сказать.
У меня много планов, которые я должна сделать.
I have many plans which I need to fulfill.
Что ты должен уезжать?
И мне нужно будет уехать в конце сентября.
Because around the end of September, she should go back to Norway.
Потому что у меня в Норвегии осталась дочь несовершеннолетняя.
Because our 17-year-old daughter, she is now in Norway.
И она сейчас там учится, я должна к ней вернуться.
She is going to study there, so Ruslana has to go back to her.
И мне понадобится быть с ней там, пока у меня не закончится программа.
And I would have to be there till my program would be finished in Norway.
У меня очень мало времени,
I don't have actually much time now.
поэтому мне нужно будет позаботиться о том, чтобы закрыть свой центр развития, христианский центр развития.
So actually, before the war started, Ruslana, she had here like her family center. You know, it's like both kindergarten, different activities for the children. But because the war started, you know, she had to stop it and close it. And so now it's a time for her, you know, to sort out all things concerning this issue.
Последние 2 года пандемии мне уже приходилось пересматривать этот бизнес.
And previously, as you know, we had 2 years of restrictions due to the COVID, and it's actually also significantly slowed down this kind of activity.
И сейчас уже полгода у нас все закрыто, и мне надо все это полностью раздать.
And now, like for half a year, her kindergarten was closed, so she needs just a kind of to sort out the stuff she has and just clean everything.
Yeah. And for you, Volodia, what does it's difficult to talk into the future because it's all so uncertain there, but what do you have in mind, and how can we pray for you and help you in going forward?
Well, you are right, Daphne, saying that it's difficult to plan because what I feel since the moment as war started, you can have certain plans, but you realize that certain events can change those plans or at least change the dates. So as I told you before, one of the things, and actually you can pray for this, I'm working now on getting this one-time permit to leave Ukraine. And in order for me to do this, I would need to have a certain humanitarian aid waiting for me, but people who want me to go there, they're prepared to give me that aid. So if I would be able to do this at least once, then I think it would be much easier to get those one-time permits the following times. It's like for us Ukrainians, how to get visas to United States. Normally, it's very hard to get a visa for Ukrainian to United States, but once you manage to get that visa, then there would be no problems to get it again.
Right.
So this is one thing. And another thing that is, I'm trying still to find my place in a ministry here in Kiev. Because being in a ministry for more than 20 years, you cannot just sit and do nothing. So I'm just trying to see and understand where God wants to direct me now.
Well, you are very much still in the ministry. I mean, you among the gypsies, you've been getting people to the border, you're taking humanitarian aid. You are very, very much in the ministry, just looking a bit different from what it did before. But knowing you, there's not going to be a moment you're not in the ministry and God has used you in that place. Are you still... you've still got your eye on all those things as a lifestyle, I should think.
Yes, for sure, yeah. Because, every time, well, probably, you know it yourself, that when you do something, you always think how much more I can do. You always understand that I want to do things more. And when you have free time, sometimes maybe you feel guilty, because especially during the time like this, you think that you can invest that time so it can be more beneficial for the people around and for the sake of spreading the gospel.
Yeah, and you are an evangelist at heart. And again, as Andrew said earlier, I would encourage people, if they want to know more about Volodia, you can do that via us and we'll direct you. And of course, the more finances you have, the more you can do. And that is just a hard fact that you wouldn't say, but I'm saying you can only give humanitarian aid if you can buy it. You can only get a larger van if you have the money to do it. So for those who are listening, if you want to give towards Volodia, Andrew will put the link at the bottom.
Yeah, as we start to come in towards the end, you mentioned before that certain circumstances, certain situations can then have an impact on what's going on, and so we don't know exactly how things are going to unfold. One of those things that were in the news over the last couple of days was what they're reporting was the assassination of Darya Dugina. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. The daughter of Alexander Dugin. Now, the Russian security forces are claiming that it's Ukrainian special forces that the ones that assassinated her. Now, I'm not asking you to verify or whatever that information, but what have you had a chance to get a feel for what people are thinking about that situation, how that will impact the war? I've already seen reports that Alexander is calling for, because he's a close ally of Putin, that he's calling for him to win the war in revenge of his daughter's death. So what do you have any feelings or thoughts about that situation, how that could impact what's going on right now?
I can just tell you the things that it's not a big news here in Ukraine, because nobody is thinking about this. And you need to understand that it doesn't matter. Well, I will put it another way, that Russians, they say that if you do this and this, there can be something more terrible which can happen to you. But reality or the fact is that everything what they could do, they did it already. They did it already. There is no things which they did not try. They use all their military equipment. They use all their weapons, well, except for the nuclear one, we understand. But everything what they have, they use it already against the Ukraine. And there are no other red lines which they have not yet crossed. So even with the fact that that woman was assassinated, and I don't know who did it, Ukrainian special forces or Russian special forces, because I've heard that there was a suspicion that actually not her, but her father was a target. It sounds like he owned the car, so they may have been targeting him, but she got in the way. Yeah. So actually, for Ukrainians, it doesn't matter. And the fact that there are so many civilian Ukrainians are being killed every day, does not change for Ukrainians anything. So we don't expect that something terrible would happen because she was killed. Because from several weeks ago, some explosions started to happen in Crimea. We don't say that this is Ukrainian forces, and even Russians themselves, they don't say that these are Ukrainians who did it. It just happened. And for now, this issue is open, who did it. But there were many threats before towards Ukraine that if something would happen to Crimea, then you would suffer from this. So, and Crimea is more important for Ukraine than the daughter of that man, believe me. And knowing Russians, they don't spare their people. And many of their soldiers, they just been sent here as a kanun meat. So it was during the time of the Soviet Union, and it was a mentality of Soviet Union, not spare their own people. So the same mentality Russia has adopted. So they're not sparing their own people. So again, coming back to your question, you know, we don't expect nothing special or extraordinary happened as a result of this event.
Yeah, and like you said, it could have been anyone, and Russia could just be blaming Ukraine for it. Obviously, other people would have had issues with her father for various reasons.
And by the time you put this podcast out, there could be another issue.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure.
But
well, maybe if you can give me just one more minute, because
yes, sure.
one real thing you need to pray. Because tomorrow, 24th of August, Ukraine celebrates our Independence Day. It would be, I believe, our 31st anniversary. And there are a lot of reports from both Ukrainian, British, and other intelligence services that Russia is preparing to shell over Ukraine their cruise missiles. So we want to see what would happen, well, maybe still today or tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But we have a lot of warnings throughout Ukraine where people are asked not to be in a big crowds, especially if you are in Kiev, not go like to the center or to the places where there are a lot of people. So I would just ask you to pray, or people who would watch this, that you would pray specifically during these couple of days.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Volodia and Ruslana. It's fantastic to see your face. We're glad that you could be with Volodia and some of your family now. You get to be reunited. So thank you again. We really appreciate you being able to update us. And again, for people listening, if you would like to help get resources to Volodia and Ruslana and help them with what they're doing there as they support other people, the link is in the description. Again, thank you. We really appreciate you both. It's been many years. Hopefully we get to see you both again soon.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, and maybe, who knows, maybe especially if you talk about Western Ukraine, and if you can come to that side, to Western Ukraine, we can still meet there. So you can at least taste a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, friends. May God bless all of you.
And you too.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, if it inspired you, share it with others so we can see more people engaged in this community.